Hello, this is my first video for the 6th grade history class going through ancient civilizations. Now, one of the things that I mentioned to you as a class before is that in order for something to be considered ancient, it had to have existed before the fall of the Western Roman Empire. We have gone through all the way from Mesopotamia to the Byzantine Empire and how that extended past the fall of the Western Empire, but now we're actually going to go a little bit further beyond the Byzantine Empire and deal with, or we're going to go beyond the Western Roman Empire and deal with the part of the Europe that Byzantium, or the Byzantine Empire, that they were around during the same time as, but it's a period of time that you know well. At least know the name. It is the medieval period, the Middle Ages, also called the Dark Ages. If you have your books, it's page 294. Now, these little history ones that we do here, these videos are not going to be long videos, a couple of minutes long here and there, just little things to put out there, kind of talk about the chapter, and then I'll have you guys do some of the homework assignments and different things there, and we'll grade those all at another time. And so the medieval period, by the year 476, the Western Roman Empire had fallen, and it opens up the time period for historians to a nice little time to cut off this period here and begin the Middle Ages or medieval times. Now, medieval comes from Latin words meaning middle and another word meaning age, where we get middle age from. And what had happened before this, remember, the Roman Empire was in charge. And even though the Roman Empire was weak and decaying, it was falling apart near the end of its time there, they still were in control. They had the stability that they offered there. Once they fell, mainly because of inner turmoil and hardship, and there was invaders from the outside, and there was political corruption, and a lot of different things contributed to the fall of Rome, that once they fell, that leadership of Rome across Europe fell apart and was gone. And that made a big deal there. Different Germanic tribes coming from modern day Germany, is why they're called that, came through and really did a lot of damage to the territory that was there. Some of the ones, the famous ones we think of, are the Angles or the Saxons. They invaded Britain and northern France. We have the Franks, who would set up what would become the modern Frenchmen themselves. The Visigoths that would go and invade all through France, what would become France, and then Spain, down into northern Africa were there. You have the Ostrogoths and the Huns and the Vandals that would go through, and these tribes just being pushed west by other tribes from the east would move into these territories here. And so as the fall of the empire happened and that civil leadership, the leadership of governments was gone, they did leave a vacuum, a power vacuum. And what stepped into its place was the Roman Catholic Church. And the Roman Catholic Church, starting at this period, would become very powerful, mainly because of the control that they had over the people and the loyalty that they took there. And so that's what they did there. Europe is made up of very many different people groups. Today, there are several different countries, over a dozen of them in the continent of Europe, but the continent of Europe is pretty small. It's about a third of the size of the United States, definitely less than half. And so a big difference there in the setup that it was. Well, the Roman Catholic Church in the medieval period, like I said, was probably the most powerful organization. And we'll look at how they were powerful dealing with the kings, but I want to talk a little bit about them as themselves. As time goes on, you have a group of people called the clergy. These are, think of them as the pastors of the Roman Catholic period there, or the Roman Catholic Church. The pastors there, the priests and bishops. And these bishops and the Pope, who was the leader of the Roman Catholic Church, some people, their belief is that he was God's mouthpiece, the vicar of Rome, they called him. At some points, they would even say that he was Christ on earth, was as much strength as they would put behind the particular popes. They would be in charge, but the problem was eventually they moved away from belief in the Bible and that sin is forgiven through redemption and through shedding of Christ's blood to following what the church said. They would say that if you follow what the church says, you do what the church wants you to do, then you will have salvation. Then you will be safe there. And they called those different religious ceremonies and religious beliefs, they called them sacraments. And there's a list of them on page 297. Now, there was another group there that you would have the very top of the food chain. That was the Pope. And then under him, you would have the bishops. They were in charge of like entire regions or countries, even. Then you would have the priests. And then you would have monks. Now, monks were a different group that was set aside there. They would often go and sequester or hold themselves apart from the other people there in monasteries, where think of it as like basically the only thing they did all day was study the Bible and study Roman Catholic teachings. And so that's what they did. And they went through there and they would write what they're doing, they would study what they were learning about, all these different things there. You would also have friars. Now, a friar was similar to a monk in that they didn't own any property, they were dedicated their lives to God, all these things here. But whereas a monk have kept themselves apart from the people, a friar actually would live amongst the people. Friar comes from the word meaning brother. And they would help. They would be the ones down there. If you remember the story of Robin Hood, Friar Tuck was one of the main characters there. His name being Tuck, and he was a friar. And so they had it there. You would also have the female version of these were the nuns. Sometimes they would be in nunneries, sequestered again, similar to the monks. Other times they would help the people there. And so you have the sacraments there on page 297. If your activities manual, you should have that there in front of you with you. Please do page 214 in your activities manual. As I said, this is not a long video. Many of these for this chapter will not be long, just something short to help show you guys what's going on.